Hey, business building warrior. This is Jim, another episode of Silent Sales Machine Radio. I've got a guest for you today, and we turned on the cameras, which means if you want to check us out on YouTube, if you're listening right now, you can see a link right below in the description for this episode, and you can go watch us. Although it's just two guys hanging out talking to microphones, so nothing too exciting. But if you're listening on whatever podcast app you're normally using, hey, we'd sure appreciate you leaving us a review or feedback after you've checked out the episode today. That really tells us that you like what we're doing and you want more of it. So with that being said, let's get into a little bit of an introduction about who Tom is. He's our guest today. He's got advanced degrees in education. He works with special needs kids. He's got a big heart and he's doing some really good work. But with the pandemic hitting a little over a year or so ago, or coming up on a year ago, I should say, he lost his position and he was kind of out on his own trying to figure out how to pay the bills, continue to do the work he'd been trained to do, working with special needs kids on the spectrum, helping them with developing life skills. It's not a way to get rich for sure, but he was able to find a few clients, but he needed something else to enhance his income. And he discovered our community. He discovered selling on Amazon. He jumped into the RePlens model. And just a few months in, he's built a pretty robust business. Now, this is one of those episodes that we like to mix in where it's not necessarily a big, multiple seven-figure, multiple six-figure kind of business model that's just exploded. This is someone who's still finding his way. He's fairly new to the Amazon RePlens model, which you hear us talk about so much on this show. I would say about 90% of the success story episodes that you hear on this show in the last 2 years have been RePlens sellers. We've actually got several hundred recent success posts in our free Facebook group at silentjim.com. You'll find a link to that and you can see them for yourself. And they're all talking about, the vast majority of them anyway, 90% plus are talking about how they started with the RePlens model. That's what Tom's using. So he's got about 65 products that he's been able to find in a few short months. We did the math. He's making about $250 per hour net profit in his business right now. Working about 10 hours a month right now. Very, very much a part-time thing for him because again, his true passion and his true vocation is assisting special needs kids and families with his advanced education degree. That's what he's good at. But he's mixing in Amazon. He has a really cool long-term vision too, to kind of combine those two worlds, maybe hire some of these very meticulous and talented special needs kids to get in and maybe do some of the packaging and the bagging, some of the products that he's interested in. He talks about one of the products he found and he kind of got ahead of himself and bought too much of it, but that may still turn into opportunity for him in his Amazon business. So we had a lot of fun kind of bouncing around several different topics. Towards the end, I spent some time kind of coaching him and encouraging him on maybe becoming an expert and a content creator to help his dream expand beyond where it is now in both the Amazon and teaching vocations to special needs kids. So I think you'll enjoy today's episode. A little different stage seller. If you enjoy hearing from sellers who are only 2, 3, 4 months into their journey, we'll do more of that. Let me know, because we've certainly got an entire spectrum of students to draw from. Having taught 7,000 coaching students at this point, can't believe it, but about 17 years, we've taught over 7,000 coaching students through our coaching program. And actually, Tom today said he's getting ready to jump into our coaching too. He's not a coaching student yet. All he's done so far is prove an Amazon course, by the way. But with that large spectrum of students to draw from and people to talk to, tens of thousands of people taking our courses, coaching, consulting. There's just so many great success stories we can draw from. If you like the one today where we're kind of talking about someone who's new, let me know. If you prefer the more advanced, people have been in it a few years and they've got the 7-figure businesses. If you want more of those, let us know. This really is your show. Tell us where you want it to go. You'd be surprised, even with, I think we had 60,000 downloads in the last 30 days, something like, it was at least 60, maybe it was 62,000, something like that. That's a lot of people listening to this show and listening to episodes. But you'd be surprised how many people take a moment to write and actually tell us what it is they think about the program. We love to hear from people who say, hey, you should do more of this, less of that. It would really serve us well. Or here's a question I have I'd like you to address. We'd love to get that. I only get a few of those a week. believe it or not. So send us a message. jimcockrum@gmail is a straight email straight to me. Or go to silentjim.com. You'll see the link to contact us, send something to our support team, and you probably get a little faster answer that way. But I do see all my own email. I go through it, or I get you going where you need to go if I have to forward you to our team. But with all that introduction being said, let's jump over and meet Mr. Tom Bishop. You're going to enjoy this episode. And thanks for hanging out with us a little bit today. So Tom, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Jim. Happy to be here.
Great to see you, man. Looking forward to getting to know you along with the listeners today. So let's get right into your story.
Okay. All right. So before I discovered e-commerce or had any kind of thinking about selling anything or doing any kind of business, I've been a teacher, a special ed teacher for about 10 years now. It's been a long ride, it's been interesting to say the least. Worked my way up from, started at the lowest level of a teaching assistant, got my master's in education, was a teacher for about 5 years, went and got my second master's. So now I'm what is called a behavior analyst. Nobody really knows what that is when I say it. So I usually just say I'm a special ed teacher, but it's a little bit higher up. We work with, mostly individuals on the autism spectrum, and it's good work. It's a great thing.
What age range you typically work with?
I started off in a preschool, finished off in a school. I had a class with 14 to 17-year-olds. So I've been everywhere from 3-year-olds up to almost 20-year-olds.
Good
had
for you, man.
A wide range of experience for sure. It's been an interesting trip to say the least.
Without knowing anything else about you, I would imagine you're a patient person with a big heart, because, man, that's God's work. We got a couple, not necessarily on the spectrum, a couple special needs kiddos in our family. We've been through some things, and just the people who've kind of stepped in even professionally, even though you're getting paid, you still got to have a special heart to deal with some of those. Just, it's people who are kind of on the edges of normal, whatever that is.
Yeah, it doesn't exist.
Yeah, exactly. We've learned that. Trust me.
It's fun. Yeah, you learn those lessons that, there's really no such thing as normal. And, just being a part of the special needs community has been, a fantastic journey. It's been, you meet some of the great, the students and even individuals that I meet are some of the, most creative, wonderful people that you get in touch with, and their families and the people that I work with are just, all around.
I love that you mentioned their families. That's one of the things that stood out to my wife and I, even when we were dating, we talked about, hey, what would be cool? Like, if we get married someday, and we're just kind of at that stage where we're talking about, like, we should adopt, like maybe even like special needs, because we looked at all these families that had that element. They were just the coolest people. Like, there's something that polishes the rough edges off a family.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. You get a lot closer. You go through, your ups are a lot higher and your downs are a little bit lower. And I think it just brings everybody together closer.
Yeah, there's a unity there. It's hard to replicate.
Yeah, and even outside of the families, the community as a whole, everybody's always ready to help everybody else out. It's really, I'm happy that, my life has brought me in that direction for sure.
That's great. Well, I know a little. I feel like I know a little bit more about who I'm dealing with just from the conversation so far. So, all right, man, let's get back to e-commerce.
Right. Yeah. So when we get around to e-commerce, so like I said, I finished up school, did all my hours, and became a behavior analyst. And it was time to move on. I was working at this one school here in Staten Island, New York, for about 8 years, and they didn't have a position for me, so I had to leave the place I was comfortable with and move out into a whole new world. And that was on March 1st, 2020. And about 2 weeks later, the world shut down. So,
wow, good timing.
Yeah, it was terrible timing. So after that, trying to find a new job and kind of spread out professionally in that direction, things got real slow, real quick. But, actually, in the long run, it led me here, which is going to lead me to more opportunities, in the future that I will get onto later on in the conversation. But so for about a year, I was just scraping around trying to get any hours that I could work. Basically went into business for myself, doing the behavior analyst stuff, taking individual cases. I was working for like maybe 10, 15 hours a week if I could get that. And I realized also too, it fluctuates. Sometimes I get a lot of hours, sometimes like a couple of months, then I'll have no hours. So it was like, okay, I got to find some way to generate some, backup income and kind of have a plan for when things are slow and when things are quick. So I lost some money in the stock market, was looking for other opportunities, and realized, what I really need to do is put some money into a business. If I can have a business that, in the long run, I could have somebody else operate or, have time to do myself, that's probably the best way to invest the money that I do make, the extra money that I have left over. So at that point with Amazon and e-commerce, really the only exposure that I've had to it was just like Facebook ads and all this stuff that made it look like a scam, guys in Lamborghinis and, give me a couple $1,000s of your money and you can be this. And I was kind of turned off by it, but at the same time, I knew that there was people, out there making money doing this. So I did a little research, was looking for courses, things that I could do to learn more about the business. And the first thing that caught my eye was the Proven Amazon course. I saw it was, the most modestly priced. And, from what I could tell, it seemed like real deal. And, I figured, okay, I'll give this a shot. And a couple of months, $30 a month. If it doesn't work out, then, at most I lost, $100, maybe $200 tops. So ran with that. And also, okay, so the other thing that got me interested in it that I am lacking to mention was, the cardinal mistake that I made at the beginning of my e-commerce career. Working with individuals with autism, and just a lot of kids in general. I'm sure you've seen those little popper toys. They're like a circle, and they have a bunch of little buttons in them that you pop.
Oh,
Maybe not. They're like
no, I know, like real kinetic kind of like keep your hands busy kind of toy.
Actually, do I have one sitting around? I probably have one within arm's reach, but I don't see it right now. But so it was like it's that they have these little bean poppers. I was just noticing that all of my students and every student that I came across was had one of these toys, and I'm like, you know what, man, maybe I could make some money selling these. I'll try this out. And so I got the pack course just to get familiar with Amazon and how to do it, and made the mistake of I ordered like 500 of them from China and got all these toys that came in, which are still sitting in my closet because I got online, realized the whole brand registry process, and when you order them from China, you can't sell them without a brand. I actually sent in I think like maybe 50 of them because I jumped on a listing that I thought I could jump on, and immediately got hit with the IP complaint. And luckily was able to send an email out, and they got rid of the IP complaint, and I removed all the inventory.
Navigate that. Well, let me pause you for just a second there, Tom, in case we got a new listener, because while this is the 1500th time I've heard a similar story, this may be someone's first time. They're like, "Ooh, cool! Oh, he sold a bunch of those cool toys." No, crash and burn. That happens 95% of the time when new sellers say, "Oh, I've got a new great hot product. I'm going to sell this on Amazon." I listened to the videos on YouTube about how to launch a product, bought some software, whatever. It doesn't matter how much work or energy you put into it. If you're brand new to e-commerce, you got about a 95% chance of having a store just like Tom's, where it's all still sitting in your garage or in your closet. Yeah. Luckily, it sounds like it was kind of smaller units. It wasn't something big that's taking up your whole house, but that's just a rough way to start. That's why we rarely start new students there. So Proven Amazon course would never start you there. It sounds like you kind of jumped the gun a little bit. I just wanted to clarify 100%. That for folks that, you kind of jumped ahead 100%. A few steps. Yep. We love private label, but not for new sellers.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. And I was kind of just going with like, okay, I'll learn as I go. And, you learn the lessons that you learn the hard way when you lose money are, the best learned lessons though. So, I took away what I could from that, learned how to handle, IP complaints and removal orders and all that stuff. So I'll take the positive with it. It cost me a couple of bucks, but, a lesson learned, which worked out. However, though, before I was able to get the inventory back, when they removed the IP complaint, I managed to sell like 3 of them, got sold, and I got away with it. And that luckily ungated me in a whole bunch of things. So that worked out a little bit further down the road because I made first couple of sales. Yeah.
Well, yeah, a few sales got you some momentum. That happens sometimes. Amazon will say, "Hey, you need to pull all 50 of these off the shelf." And you say, "Okay, I'll pull them." And then between the time when you say, "Okay, pull them and send them back to me," and the 5 days later when they actually pull them, you get some sales. And we've actually sold out of stuff in that gap before too, which is always fun. But yeah, I love it. So that got you ungated. That's cool.
Yeah, so I helped out, and then so that didn't work out. I was a little disheartened, but then continued with the course. At that point, I really had just done the Amazon one-on-one course and just got the basics of setting up the account and getting familiar with Seller Central and that kind of stuff. And then that's when I got involved with the Facebook group and looking at all the courses and realized, okay, the RePlens model seems more my type, since something that seems a little less risky. More stable. So started the RePlens training, I think around July, is when I started doing that course.
That's about 6 months ago, just to give people a timeline.
Yep. Yeah, sorry. Okay, so about 6 months ago, started the replens course and stopped right after the video for 30 replens in 30 days because I figured, okay, let me pace myself and, get it. And I think, my story so far, I'm only 6 months in, and most of the people that you have on the show, I consider, have been successful, are doing great numbers, I've been doing at it for a while and have, figured out a lot. I think my story so far, like I don't consider myself a success story yet, but I wanted to come on the show because I think, still being green and new in the e-commerce industry, I think that some listeners can, kind of listen to my pitfalls and things that I've been doing and could help out some of the new guys, some of the obstacles that I'm facing.
Absolutely. Yeah. We hear all the time, actually, Tom, from listeners, and they say, man, I don't feel like I'm one of those people yet with the, $30,000 a month by month 2 kind of, just they feel almost intimidated by it. So one of the things I'm doing more intentionally with this show is people who are succeeding even at a smaller level, the part-time kind of thing. And, there's no shame in that. It's awesome that, it's the trajectory that matters. It's the legitimacy of the opportunity that matters. And I'm even having an episode here in a few weeks. I think it's coming up actually later this week where I'm going to record it with a couple of people who have never even done anything. They haven't bought the Proven Amazon course yet. They haven't done anything. They haven't registered on Amazon. I'm just going to hear from them. What are the things you're skeptical about? I put out the call to the community. Like, I need some skeptics. I need some people to really pick this apart. Like, hey, let's do an episode with them. They're considering it, but they haven't started yet. So I like mixing it up a little bit. But cool. There's no need to apologize for your story versus someone else's. I mean, we're all at different stages. And I think this is going to be very useful to a good segment of our community that isn't used to hearing a story that's, doesn't have as many commas and zeros yet as maybe some of the others.
Well, I hope so. Yes. So in regards to that statement, so the first thing that I did was I watched the replens videos and said, okay, I'm going to go out and find me some replens. And, I've seen this, a lot of newcomers that come on the Facebook group and, had a similar experience. I go out into the stores and I could not find anything. I was so disheartened. I spent hours in a grocery store, in my local grocery store, just plugging away, doing the process and not finding anything. And, going online. I spent like a good month and I found absolutely nothing. It was very disheartening. And I think everybody goes through that. And it's really at that point where I, could have said, okay, this is all, malarkey and it's not going to work out for me. I'm not like these guys. The guy on the podcast says he can go into a store and find 75 replens in a day. And, that blew my mind. And it's really that where you make that decision whether, okay, this isn't working out. I'm either going to quit or I'm going to figure out how it works because other people are doing it. And that's what I said. Okay, I'm going to go back to the videos. I'm going to go watch some other sourcing videos. I'm going to maybe change the way that I search things and change the way that I'm looking for brand. Maybe I'll look for brands instead of doing individual items. And all of a sudden, slowly, the ASIN started rolling in. I started finding more and more. And I was like, in August, September. August was like the month I didn't find anything at all. So my second month in, the ASIN started rolling in. And
now I want to pause right there. You just said something profound. And there's an aha moment that has to happen for everybody. And I can say it till I'm blue in the face, but you just said it naturally. But I think if I could repeat what you just said and kind of capture it in a short sentence, you stopped looking for products and you started looking for ASINs.
Right.
Based on brand searches and that sort of thing. Mm-hmm. Because everyone comes into this game thinking, I got to find some good products. I'm looking for products. You're not looking for products. You really aren't. Mm-hmm. The replens game and even the Amazon game itself, you're looking for the most part, good ASINs. And let me just explain for the new people, what's an ASIN? What's the unique identifying code? It starts with B00 typically on just about every listing on Amazon. You can find it on the page if you're looking for something to shop. It's the identifying number for every product on Amazon. It could be a 12-pack. It could be a bundle. It could be anything else. But each unique listing has an ASIN assigned to it. You're looking for good ASINs and not looking for good products. And that's understanding that is what we try to pound into you through the replens model, because it can be very frustrating if you look at one product at a time and you maybe scan the barcode, you could look at 800 items and not find a winner. And that's frustrating.
Definitely 100%. I think, for the most part, finding good ASINs and, matching them up with products, maybe like 60 to 70% of the time for me is like finding a needle in a haystack. But then there's that 30% of the time that it's like shooting fish in a barrel. You find one good brand, you find one thing, and then, you have those days where you pull in a bunch of ASINs and it's great.
Yep.
Definitely for sure. So that, and then things kind of just started to snowball effect from there. Then my first September was my first $1,000 month, and I was like, okay, let's double that up. And then October went up, I doubled that. Then November, like almost tripled that. And from there, it's just been going. It's been doing well. I'm having trouble keeping up with things, and also too. So now, the plan with Amazon in general, I have a good job. I have 2 master's degrees. I get a ton of heat from my family, and well, you got all these degrees. What are you doing Amazon stuff for? And nobody wants to believe that it's working. Well, how can you sell it for that much? Things like that, and
Sure.
I think it's helpful for me because it's like it'll be a backup. So I don't have to take on 10 students, 15, 20 students at a time and spread myself so thin. So I'm making enough money that, the money that I want to make. With something like the Amazon business, I'm able to take a few amount of cases, put more of my efforts and my focus into a fewer number of students, excuse me. And I think it benefits everybody. Like I'm able to perform a lot better. I'm able to serve the families and the community, the people that I'm working with a lot better. And, when things get slow, I could rely on the Amazon business. Like right now, so in October, I got a couple offers for some new students and booked up. So I'm working like 30 hours a week with my students, and it's all I go to like homes and schools and stuff. So that includes driving time. So it's a busy schedule, but I'm still finding, I'm working maybe an extra 10 hours a month to keep the business going. Sourcing has slowed down a lot because that's really the most time consuming part of it. But just keeping up with the ASINs. I think I only have like 65 active ASINs maybe right now, and it's plenty. I'm just, struggling just to keep up with those as they're selling. They're good ASINs, and as I'm rolling along, I'm just learning the lessons. I'm, recently tested out when I think you call them margin monsters, or people that come in and drop the price and dump it out, and you think that your ASIN is lost, and I just waited out like a month or two. They sold out of inventory, and whatever clearance or sale that they bought the inventory from is over, and the price came back up, and we're good to go again. When it first hit you, you're like, oh my God, this was such a good ASIN, it was selling, and I'm never going to sell it again, and I got to drop the price to get rid of it. And you don't. You can just wait it out, keep that higher price, and it'll come back. Some of them I did lose. This month I lost 2 great ASINs that the supplier raised the price a little bit and knocked out my profits. Or the supplier ran out of stock, and I don't know if they're going to restock again. But I think patience is the key in this industry and in any industry for the most part.
Yeah, for sure. And tell me a little bit more about how you found those good ASINs because I think a lot of people can relate to that part of the story where you were frustrated, but suddenly you've got 65 good products. Like it happened pretty fast. Were you in stores? Yeah. Were you on Amazon? What were you doing?
So a mix. I really haven't done. I haven't done a lot of reverse sourcing. So I haven't gone from Amazon to finding the suppliers. I did have the benefit. I got hooked up with a good hardware wholesaler here in New York. And even when I first went there, I tried to go product for product through their website, and I wasn't finding anything, and figured, okay, I got to switch my style up. And I just went on to Amazon and typed in the brand name. I went through what brands does this place carry, and you type in a brand name, go through a couple of pages, you see, most of the bigger brands, Amazon is on every listing, so that's not going to work out. But I hit this one brand that Amazon wasn't on, and I think I have like 10 ASINs from that one brand from this one hardware store. And they're doing great, and they're selling. And you find little niches that work out. And so, really going from just searching the brand and seeing, like you said, what ASINs are good. Okay, I see this product has a good rank and it has a good price. Does my supplier carry this product? And then I would search for that product, as opposed to taking the product and searching for the product on Amazon. I took the product from the listing and searched for it on the company website, and was finding. And then all of a sudden, they started all these good products were popping up that I wasn't finding originally.
Beautifully said. I love it. And I take it you're running it through Keepa. You're looking at Keepa to see if it's a good fit.
Yep. Right? Learned that the rank is not as important as you think it is. Keepa is what matters, 100%.
The drops, counting the drops each month. That's part of the replenish training. It's not complicated. You feel like you're looking at a complex heart EKG the first time you see a Keepa chart, but there's really only a few data points you're looking at that really tell you a beautiful story. And for those who don't know what we're talking about, go back and listen to episode 369. I really dive into why we love Keepa. Very inexpensive, $20 a month or so. And there's people with 7-figure businesses in our community. That's the only tool they use, the only paid tool they use in their business.
That's all I'm using right now. Yeah, 100%. Pretty much the process simply is, I see a listing, and either rank, like if it's lower than 1 million, I'll usually take a look at it. Even sometimes I take a look at it anyway, because it doesn't hurt.
Mm-hmm.
You see a product under a brand that I know one of my suppliers carries, and check to keep a graph, compare it to the number of sellers that there are. Keep it looks good, price looks good. I'll see if my supplier has that product, and then you do your FBA calculator, see what your profit could potentially be. Something to consider that I didn't consider first off was that price changes do fluctuate. It's good, you get more sales when you fluctuate, so it's good to keep in mind, a minimum profit that you're willing to accept. So, when I look at it, I say, okay, this has 100% profit, and how much money is that? And if I drop down the price, a couple of dollars or whatever percentage, how much am I willing to come down to still take a profit and be happy with the profit that I'm taking? I also, there was a lot of grocery items that I had found originally that, I got them cheap, and, it was 100% ROI, but it was only like $2. So after you're putting that in a poly bag and shipping it out, the effort isn't really worth, I got to sell, 500, 1,000 of these things to make any real money off of it. So you mature as as you're selling, and you mature with the products that you're selecting and what your margin should be, how much money you should be making. But that's when I moved up. So I was selling this one item singly, making $2-3 on it, not that great. But if I sold it as a 3-pack, now I'm making 100% margin, but the 3-pack is $8, and I make $8 back on it, which is good. And I also have room to come down. I'd be happy with making $4 on it if I had to drop 50% of that off.
Gotcha. Now, did you create a new listing for a 3-pack, or was there one already there and you jumped on it?
There were ones already there. I haven't created any new listings yet.
Yeah,
I'm actually.
You may not ever have to. Again, we've got 7-figure replen businesses that have never created a listing. People in our community, you don't have to create new listings. You just find ones where the product, the ASIN, is selling at a nice profit. You can get the product at typically the rule of thumb is about 30% of whatever it's selling for on Amazon. As a general rule, is going to be worth looking at. Maybe, and if you get into higher price points, if it's selling for half, if you can buy it for half of what it's selling for, if it's selling for $200 and you can source it for 100, it's probably worth playing around with, as you get to some of those higher price points. Well, good stuff. Well, give us a little bit more detail on your numbers, if you don't mind. Right. You've shared some. I know you're just a few short months into your journey, so hopefully people appreciate this. This isn't another, 7-figure year one. I mean, you've only been going at it hard for 3 months, but I like the trajectory that you're on, and give people a realistic picture. How much work is this? What kind of money is it so far?
So last month, the store did almost $9,000 in sales. My goal was $8,000 in sales, and we got up to like $8,700, which was fantastic. I blew my goal out of the water. And this month, I already have over 6,000. It's looking like I'm going to do like 10 or 12K this month. Yeah, which is fantastic.
And the beauty of replens, it doesn't matter what time of the year it is.
No, yeah, absolutely not. No, I mean, sales have amped up a little. Like some of the clothing items and stuff I sell, have amped up a little bit, and you can tell that it's because of Q4. But most of the stuff that I have is I got a lot of hardware stuff, and that's just selling all the time anyway. Right, it doesn't matter what time of year it is. So we're definitely going to break the goal of 10K this month. I'm looking at around 20 to 25% of that is profit, which is fantastic. But I definitely want to make as the business is growing, what's nice is I'm not putting any more money into the business, but I'm not really putting that much money back in my pocket, because as I find more ASINs and I'm testing out a couple this month and they did good, so next month I'm not buying 4 of them, I'm buying 10, 20 of them. So the money's going right back into the business. But I'm approaching that point where everything I do on a business credit card, where the Amazon payouts are going to go over what the balance on the credit card is very soon. Probably within the next 3 months or so, I'm going to start, putting money into my pocket, and the business will be running itself beyond that as well, which is fantastic.
That's awesome. Yeah. Maybe hire a shopper at that point, hire a prepper, start to scale, finding more ASINs with your time, and then hiring someone, get a virtual assistant, maybe from our team, that finds ASINs for you, which is maybe a step that makes sense at some point, thinking, 3-6 months out. But yeah, you've definitely got a trajectory. You've got a scalable model. You've got proof of concept. And did I hear you right? You said you're working about 10 hours a month?
Yeah, just around about 10 hours a month. I'm doing like on my lunch break, I stop on my way home for lunch. I'll stop at a store and pick up a bunch of inventory. And at that time after work, while I'm hanging out watching TV, we're putting it in bags, we're labeling it. My girlfriend helps me out a lot.
Not a bad gig.
Yeah, no, not at all. And it's an opportunity. My sister is a single mother, and she's always looking for extra cash. So I say, hey, you ever want to come over? She's great at packing. I got the bubble wrap set up for you. And mind you, I should also mention that I'm doing all of this out of a 1-bedroom apartment.
Nice.
So
where did you say you are? You said
Staten Island, New York City.
Staten Island.
But Staten Island, so not as city-ish as Manhattan, but I can see Manhattan from my window out behind.
Gotcha. Okay. Mm-hmm. Somehow I knew. You said Staten Island. I heard Manhattan. I guess they're not too far apart. That's cool. Well, so if I'm doing my math correctly, 10K sales, 25K net, $2,500 profit, $10 or 10 hours a week. You're making about $250 an hour in your gig right now, man. That's not bad.
That's fantastic. It's better. It's better money than my hourly rate that I get with my job that requires 2 master's degrees. So
yeah. $250 an hour ain't too shabby. I mean, that's a you translate out, that's about $500,000 a year business if you went full time with it, and Definitely. You can continue to do things the way you are, which there's no reasons to suspect you wouldn't. That's $500,000 in your pocket, by the way. If I'm doing my math right, I'm pretty sure I'm pretty close there. So, you're really onto something, man.
Yeah, the future looks bright. I'm at that part, like you said, where I got to look into scaling and getting some help and working on. But right now, like the level that it's at is fantastic, and I'm doing it pretty much by myself. So this is 100% doable. If you live alone, or you got a couple of friends helping you out, or you're in a 1-bedroom apartment or a studio apartment, this is doable.
Yeah. Hey, business building warrior, quick update. One of our sponsors, Payoneer.com. They're tremendous. They've got up to $750,000 without a credit check to help you grow your Amazon or Walmart business. These guys are a proud sponsor of this program. Thank you for checking out their offer at payoneer.com/funding. That's PAYONEER.com. Payoneer.com/funding. Thanks for the sponsorship. Go check these guys out.
This is 100% doable. If you live alone, or you got a couple of friends helping you out, or you're in a 1-bedroom apartment or a studio apartment, this is doable.
Yeah. Let me run something past you, Tom, because we hear it all the time on this show, people who've been doing it for months. And sometimes I think the response when they hear what I'm about to say from some of the listeners is, well, easy for them to say. But you're only a few months into this. I want to see how this strikes you, this statement, okay? See how true you think this is. The challenge of this business quickly transitions from, I can't find anything to sell, to, I got to build systems because this stuff is everywhere. Where are you at on that trend? Like, speak honest and open. There's not an answer I'm going for, because it is, you grow into that, I think.
Right.
And I'm just wondering where you are on the spectrum of, man, I wish I could find more product versus this is going to be all about building a system because product is everywhere. Where are you at on that scale?
I am at the point right in the middle where I need to start building some systems because it's getting a little overwhelming for sure.
Yeah. And you can see where the product really is kind of everywhere is what you're saying, right?
Yeah, 100%. It's when you get out of that mindset of looking for items that you think are popular, when I'm going in the store, I think I've heard you mention it on the podcast, you see a brand and you're like, I never heard of that brand. This is new. I need to check this out. And then you look and you're like, oh, this brand's got some good ASINs on it. It's not those, I can't even think of a big brand that pops in my mind, but like Pepsi or something, something that sells a lot. That everybody else knows that sells a lot. And if there are any listings, either Amazon's gotten on it or other people have. And you avoid, when you're out shopping and sourcing and looking for things, you avoid those big brands because that you might find something in there, but most likely you're not gonna. And you start to get an eye for things that are and like you said, they're everywhere.
Yeah.
It's a little bit more difficult. I think in New York City, some of the smaller stores and local mom and pop shops, they price everything a lot higher. Like I know, my mother used to live out in Pennsylvania and she's down in Florida now. And some of the stores there have definitely cheaper items for sure. But, it's everywhere, even in New York City. If I could find profitable items here in New York, anybody and anywhere else in the country can find them.
Yeah, absolutely. You're right. And a few thoughts are popping in my head as I'm listening to you talk, just some real practical tips for folks. And I want to hear what you have for folks as well, too. But I'm curious, you mentioned your mom down in Florida. Have her go into some stores that are like regional. Florida's got several regionals, Southeast. Yeah. stores you don't see anywhere else. Take some pictures of some store shelves, do some research. Maybe have your mom, she can send stuff in from there if she's interested in making a little extra money, just as an idea. Because one of the things I notice, like when I go on vacation, say to Florida or to another state, and I'll go into very familiar stores, Kroger, Walmart, whatever, or maybe even another retail store that carries brands I'm familiar with. And I can walk down an aisle now because I've been doing this for a few years and see stuff I recognize. And then something I don't recognize just jumps off the shelf at me. And but without even looking, I can go, I bet that's a good replen because I've been in a lot of stores. I've seen a lot of products. I haven't seen that before. And sure enough, about half the time, it's like, wow, yep, that's a good product. So yeah, that's just a couple ideas for you. And as you're going through research, like how are you researching now? Do you find yourself in stores a lot, or are you doing more like online? How do you spend your time when you're looking?
A little bit of both. Definitely a little bit of both. I've noticed that I make a lot more mistakes when I'm doing it in store. I like to take pictures and then just go home and sort it out there. Jumping between screens and apps and stuff on my phone. I like to double check myself because then I'll get home and buy a bunch of stuff and realize, okay, this was the wrong ASIN or it was the wrong size. Like little tiny details that you're not measuring because maybe you're a little nervous standing around in the store, or you want to get off your feet. People don't want to spend hours and hours in the store, which I've done, but I find that I'm a lot more successful just taking pictures of the aisles and then itemizing it, going one by one through the products. And when I see a good brand, I've definitely like you said, focused into, which brands I think would be more profitable. And those are the ones that I take pictures of. So I've lessened my time in the store and, I'm focusing more time on things that I would feel. I think like anything, the more that you do it, the better that you get at it. The more, you get an eye for things. It's just, it comes with experience. Like anything. I don't think anybody's going to be able to take the course and then just go out and be able to find things like crazy. I think everybody has to go through that initial period. Because it's just something that you learn. I could watch 100 videos on how to play a guitar, but I'm not going to get that muscle memory until I stop playing a guitar. And it's the same thing inside your brain while you're looking for products. I think it's similar.
That is a great analogy. I can't remember what book it was that talks about the 10,000 hour rule. Do you remember? You know what book I'm talking about? Basically,
I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
If you want to be an expert at something, it's going to take 10,000 hours. Yeah. I'm not saying it's going to take 10,000 hours to get good at replens. But I am saying I've talked to a lot of people that give up about 5 or 10 hours in. Like, you haven't given this a shot yet. You're still thinking, you're looking at major brands and you're scanning, a can of peanut butter and you're scanning a can of or a bottle of ketchup and like, there's no profit here. It's just selling for $2 on Amazon. How can you make any money with, so you haven't given this a fair shake yet, which is why we just bombard people with success stories. I want to revisit something we just hit too, because I was kind of thinking through the rule of thumb we kind of established is if you don't recognize the brand, it might be a good one. Well, there's a lot of brands we sell that are very like everybody who's listening right now would recognize the brand. And I just wanted to point that out. There's so much low hanging fruit out there right now. Like there's 12 packs of soda that any of us could go right now to any retail store near us and grab the 12 pack case and make $6-7 a sale. I mean, there's a lot of opportunity out there. Now, those are the ones that tend to, the price tends to drop for you suddenly. Like yesterday, there was 10 of us selling it and we're doing pretty good. And the next day, there's 40 of us. So I'm like, well, okay, it went away. We made money while we could for 3 or 4 months. So ideally, you're getting those ASINs that have the long lifespan to them. And that's kind of one of the next phases of growth too, Tom, for your sake and for some of the listeners. Once you've kind of got this replen game down pat and you're selling stuff that pretty much anyone willing to research could kind of go find, well, then you want to start stepping into that territory where you're protecting some ASINs that are only yours, like a bundle that belongs only to you, or a wholesale relationship that no one else, it's some kind of exclusive wholesale relationship where there's only 2 or 3 sellers allowed to sell this products kind of thing. You start stepping into that territory is kind of a next step up. And we've got that content created and coming for our students. But there's also plenty of people that have, Oscar pops in my head, a 7-figure business, he and his wife just hustling, using Keepa. What we just talked about today, he would nod his head this whole show and go, yep, that's what we do. Yep, pretty much. Except we, instead of doing it 10 hours a month, he's probably doing it 10 hours a day, but that's what's possible with this model. And Yeah, I'm enjoying just hearing this perspective. Fairly new seller, you've got a lot of confidence about it. You're a professional. You obviously understand what you've gotten yourself into, and I appreciate your reflection on it. So, what is some of the tips that you might have for some of the listeners, some of the lessons that you've learned early on, or any advice if maybe someone's skeptical, or um, or just some things you've learned that might be useful for all of us?
Okay, so like I said, earlier, and like you've mentioned, I'm very new. I'm not at all an authority on anything Amazon related, and there's still I'm only 6 months in, and doing those kind of numbers, and there's still so much to learn. So I think the biggest key that I've found above anything is persistence. Like I had said earlier, when you hit speed bumps, it doesn't mean that it's not going to work out. It just means you got to change up what you're doing a little bit. You got to figure out what it is that you're doing that's not working. And if it's not working, change it up until you find something that is working. And it's sometimes you got to knock on the door more than once, twice, three times until you find something that is working. And persistence is key. And just understand that, people are doing it. People like me, people, that come on the show, it's doable. People are figuring it out. So if we're figuring it out, you can figure it out, and just, keep up and go back to the videos, go do your research, find other ways to get to your goal. And if you're persistent, you'll reach it.
Yeah, I absolutely believe it as well. And every time I think, well, maybe this person actually isn't equipped to do this business, I find someone who's less qualified, less motivated, less. If you're persistent and you're willing to do the steps, it's not expensive. There's a reason we focus so hard. I think if you went back and we've got over 400 podcast episodes, and if you look at the last 2 years, 90% of them are on this theme, this model, because it's just so predictable.
Yep.
Just there's nothing else that I see out there. If we discover other business models that are this predictable, we'll absolutely teach them. But there's nothing else out there like this. And so I'm glad you found our community, man. I'm glad we were able to make the connection. Have any plans for that closet full of toys? What are you going to do with those?
Well, I mean, right now it's making a great Christmas gift for all my students, anytime, and, other family members that have kids and stuff. It's easy to throw out. I eventually might pursue a private label and see if I can get into a niche of, sensory toys and stuff that goes along with,
Yeah.
autism related things. Cause I kind of got my ear to the grindstone for that. Nose to the ground, whatever that saying is. I definitely screwed that up, but
No,
in
well,
general,
I would say it was a good lesson, and that's kind of how you couched it before. And I don't necessarily see it as a mistake long term, because you've know a lot more about it than you did before, and you're a guy who's positioned. You just look at your credentials and your experience. People are paying you money to help them with pretty significant challenges that they have in their life. There's potential there for, just to kind of transition this episode maybe into a final couple minutes here of a conversation. But I'd like to encourage you to create content if you aren't. And here's what I know, here's what I do. You've read a lot of books, done a lot of seen a lot of cases and families, and it wasn't you didn't say occupational therapy. What'd you call it? What do you?
it's applied behavioral analysis. It's called ABA.
Behavioral analysis. I've heard the term before.
Okay.
For some reason, occupational therapy popped in my head. We're playing in the same arena, but
Yeah, I work with a lot of
you
teams.
know your stuff in this arena, and I would encourage you. You're well spoken, obviously intelligent, motivated, creative. I don't know. Have you ever given some thought to creating some content in this niche, kind of independent?
Well, yeah. I mean, long term, what was kind of like a realization that I had as to kind of like why I'm doing this Amazon, considering all the other experience that I have. Just sitting around one day packing stuff up, putting, majority of the work that I do is I'm just putting stuff in bags, I'm putting the labels on it. It's super easy. And I was like, long term, I could scale this. I could have a warehouse or a place where I could hire individuals with disabilities. I could have people on the spectrum come. And, the autism spectrum is such a wide range of, capabilities. I have a couple of former students that I know are complete computer whizzes, and they could probably source items online 100 times better than I could.
That's
And,
right.
and there are kids that can come in. We could do job training easily. A lot of the stuff that I did at my old school that I worked at was, we had them practice like putting labels on letters and putting the mail in letters and shredding paper and stuff like that. And it's all applicable to this. So I think long term, it would be a great opportunity to give back to the community and have, a place that individuals with disabilities can get jobs and come, be active members of a thriving business and earn paychecks and things like that. And part of what I do as a behavior analysis is we take complex skills and complex behaviors, and we break them down into what we call task analysis. So it gets broken down into easier steps. So if you're going to teach someone to brush their teeth, first you teach them how to take the cap off of the toothbrush, and then they get their toothbrush, and step by step. And that's very applicable to everything that goes into the Amazon business, from sourcing to packaging to everything involved. So I could definitely see myself creating some content, like a checklist just to go through for sourcing, or a checklist for packing, things like that. Definitely a possibility.
That's fantastic. I love hearing you say that. As you're describing it, I feel like you're kind of describing our son Ty. He's 19, works in our warehouse a few days a week.
That's great.
And he is by far our most meticulous, organized, strategic. He came from a challenging beginning. We adopted him from an orphanage in China as an infant, and some challenges that you can imagine. You've probably seen some adoptive situations. It's hard to have a healthy childhood if your first year and a half are in an unhealthy environment, right? So, you get some challenges there, but man, he just thrives in that meticulous environment that's required to do this right. And some of us have personalities. I mean, you want to drive me insane, put me in that room and make me pack and ship all day, but he thrives, loves it, improves the process, makes suggestions, catches expiration dates that the rest of us have all missed, that sort of thing, right?
This thing's off, and I know nobody else is going to see it in a pile of 100 of them, but they'll see that one thing that's off.
He sees an anomaly so fast, and it just he's meticulous by nature. He just thrives, like I said, in that environment. So you're really onto something there. But even beyond that, I would like to encourage you, create content, share your story, some YouTube videos, this journey that you're on of kind of combining entrepreneurship and helping special needs families find their way, and developing children who may have a pretty limited window of opportunity to what all they can do in life. We'd like to say we could prepare them for anything, but realistically, they've got a smaller window than the rest of us in some cases. But hey, here's some things that do work. I would say share your story, man, and because I'm inspired by it. I think a lot of others would be as well. And have you ever created like YouTube content or a channel for?
I have not, but I do have an undergrad in TV video production, so it could easily be done.
There you go, man. This was the moment of you'll point back someday and go, this Jim dude encouraged me to make some videos. I've seen it happen over and over again. I'll share with you a quick story as an example, actually. Have you ever heard of Wampler pedals by any chance?
No.
Highly doubt you have. If you were a serious musician, you probably would, though. So I had a friend of mine, this has been over 15 years ago. We were buying some rental houses. We set up a little company, bought some rental houses together. We were fixing them up. I'm up on the roof. I don't know what I'm doing with a hammer, but he does. He's a construction guy. His name's Brian. And my e-commerce business is starting to take off. And he's learning. We're talking, having conversations. He's like, I want to do some with the e-commerce. You think I should build websites? You think I should do this, that? And I'm like, what are your hobbies, man? You're into music and guitar pedals. Right? You know what a guitar pedal is? You crack it open, guitarists, electric guitars, you plug in and you make your guitar sound cool ways. Well, he liked cracking them open as a hobby and changing them, making them sound cool and different. So local bands in the area would go to him, pay him $50. And he kept pretty good flow of business coming through his garage that way, making a little bit of money. So the encouragement I gave him was kind of nothing more than what I've kind of told you today was, hey, you've got kind of a special, unique story and situation. Why don't you just film it, throw it on YouTube and see what happens, right? Well, he did. And jump forward 15 years, it's one of the Cadillac brands of guitar pedals in the world. Wow. And he's invited like backstage to all the big, country music events. He's worked one-on-one with Brad Paisley. They talk to each other all the time. And he's got pedals named after Paisley. It's just because he's put his content out there and said, hey, this might resonate with some people. Let's see what happens next. And it just exploded. And cool. I can't take any credit for that story other than I'm the guy that gave him a nudge to do something he probably would have done eventually anyway. But the story still stands as a great example of, put some content out there. What's it hurt? Maybe attract just a few new clients. Maybe instead of just being you got an office now with 5 or 6 other therapists that work under you or something, but you're perceived as an expert when you create content, or better yet, write a book, right?
Yeah.
Just definitely encouraging you, man.
All great ideas, all things that I've thought about. Yeah. Definitely good advice. Thank you.
Yeah, appreciate you putting up with my soapbox moment. But anytime I see someone who's articulate and comfortable, and confident in what it is, that the story they have to tell, and if they're not comfortable and confident, I encourage them. You got to get comfortable and confident.
Yeah.
Which, another quick story. Nancy Alexander was another student of ours, and she refused to get on camera. She made wreaths, decorative wreaths like you hang on your door for Christmas and Easter and stuff. And she just wanted to make them and sell them $80 a pop on eBay. I'm like, you've got to film yourself. You've got to film yourself. I pushed and pushed, but she finally did. Now she's like the content queen of the universe for women who work at home and make decorative items, to sell on Etsy or eBay. And she's just got a huge following because she finally just bit the bullet and created content. So that's, there's a couple example stories for you, but hopefully that encourages you or the listeners too, as I'm keeping them in mind. But
Right.
man, Tom, it's been great hanging out with you. I loved your lesson about persistence. I think that's spot on. Was there any other little bits of wisdom you want to drop from your, 3 to 6 month journey so far? Something that might be useful for the listeners? No pressure. Just didn't want to cut you off.
No, besides persistence and keep going. You can do it. I'm still learning. There's I guess the one lesson, another lesson is that there's always more to learn. Don't ever think that you got it down pat. I mean, there's always more to learn, more things to explore. I think that you said, do things that you're not comfortable with. Stretch your boundaries. If you're uncomfortable with standing in the store for a couple hours, go stand in the store for a couple hours. Get out of that comfort zone because that's where growth happens.
You're right. Another good example for that being getting out of your comfort zone is a lot of people like, I don't want to go ask for the store manager and ask for a discount if I've got 4 shopping carts. No, do it. Do it anyway. You'll be amazed how friendly they are. They want your business. Get into a conversation with them and get 20% off the whole order for the day. That's a lot of money in your pocket. Those kind of things happen. Worst case scenario is they say no. If you're going to be successful in business, you got to be confident and comfortable with the word no. Using it and hearing it. Get used to it. If you go through life avoiding the word no, you're going to lead a disastrous life. Your business is going to be very difficult.
That's something I'm still struggling with. It's interesting that a large part of my job in teaching is building relationships. I'm always going to a new house, a new home. You got to learn, meet the whole family, and get comfortable with all these people. And I have no problem doing it. Reaching out for a business relationship, I'm still a little bit shy. I'm still kind of easing myself into it and trying to break out of my comfort zone there, to send out an email to somebody to try to get an account with a wholesaler or something like that. Because I guess, you're less confident because it's not something that I'm established in. It's not something I've done, but the way that I got comfortable in teaching and the way that I got comfortable with dealing with people in that sense was just by jumping into the water. And that's how I learned how to swim,
That's right. And I think you naturally see the value that you bring to the scenarios with the families that you're dealing with. Yeah. Like you feel yes, I know that I have something that can help you. And you're
I'm here to help. So it's easier. Right? Yeah.
But you're still kind of feeling your way in this e-commerce. But once you're confident there, that you're not asking this manager for a discount so he can do a favor just for you. You're saying, hey, well, let's establish a long-term mutually beneficial arrangement here. Right? It's good for him too. If you're going to be coming in a lot, bringing more business, you guys are going to be doing things together that help his business and help your business. It's a mutually beneficial thing. So once you get that confidence of I'm providing value here, I'm not just asking for a favor. I'm truly providing value to that wholesaler, to that other opportunity you're pursuing, the manager. That's when I think you kind of get that boldness. Like, makes sense to ask. I'm doing him a favor.
I think one thing that I'm worried about in some instances is, running into a store manager and finding out that the store is not reseller friendly. Mm-hmm. And then am I screwing up a good thing that I got going already by trying to reach for more?
Let's talk about that. Because if I'm in a store and I'm kind of doing something that they're not going to ultimately be happy with me doing, I would propose that maybe you shouldn't be doing it, or maybe you should be doing it in a different way, because the value of the positive relationship will far outweigh any kind of get in, get out type of arrangement. What I mean by that is you could find them saying something like, well, we'd prefer you not clearing the shelf if you don't mind, but could you let us know what you need? We'll happily place orders and give you 10% off, because that helps our bottom line. We actually get a rebate once a quarter for the volume of sales. So how about you just email us your order and we'll have it in the back for you every Wednesday, right? So the value of the relationship can very quickly replace and go far past just kind of the get in, get out, wear your shades and your fake mustache.
The masks help, yeah.
So It just as an encouragement. I've seen it time. I've been doing this long enough. I know the value of those relationships is the asset. The product itself, those kind of come and go, but those relationships just grow and build over time when you handle them the right way. So I would encourage you, if you're kind of getting in and getting out, hoping that there will be opportunity last, go ahead and have a chat anyway. And I think you'll be surprised how often, the only exception I can think of is Target. Target doesn't like reselling. We know a lot of people just get in, get out. But I'll tell you this, the Target 3 miles from me, on more than one occasion, I've gone in and I've said, hey, if I cleared this shelf, this is 100% true story. Now, my daughter was a little younger when I took her with me to do this. But so I had she'd have been like 10th time, 9 or 10. This is 4 or 5 years ago. They had this big set of, winter was coming and all the life jackets were on sale. They must have had 80 life jackets, right? And here no one swims in the winter in Indiana. So all the life jackets are on sale, like 60% off. I said, hey, manager, could I get these, like marked down if I clear the shelf here? Absolutely no way, under no circumstances. If it's discounted, you're not going to get another penny off around here, mister. So I went back again. This time I had my daughter with me. And I don't know if that made a difference or not, but I went back again. There's a shelf, all the same. And I just asked for the manager again. It was a different manager. And I said, hey, could I do this if I took them all? Said the same thing. And they said, absolutely. Great to see you. Would love to have this shelf space cleared. Sure enough, like a 20% discount on top of the 60. Took them all home and sold them all, a great profit. So even at those stores that kind of have that reputation of pushback, there's going to be different managers, different days, different moods. It's a sweet talk and have a good conversation. And I like to buy the cashier a candy bar and, hey, what's your favorite candy bar? Thanks for bringing all this up for me today. What do you want? It's on me. So those relationships, they're going to carry you further than kind of that, like, get in, get out with your collar pulled up and your shades on kind of,
But it's worth it. It's worth the shot.
Some advice from a guy who's been doing it a while. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah.
All right, Tom. Well, man, it's been great hanging out with you, buddy. That was a great interview.
Yeah, thanks. I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we'll have you back a year from now when you're hitting that. What's the goal, man? Let's say, a year from now, we have you back. What would you like to be saying? As far as your business, what do you shoot for?
That I've scaled and I got, I have people working for me, and things are. I've taken a step back from the day-to-day operations, and I'm successfully having other people fulfill the jobs, and everything's getting done. And hopefully, I've hired people that need the money, and I'm helping. I'm using my business to help out other people as well as
blending those two worlds together is going to be a beautiful picture.
Yeah,
for sure. All right, man. Well, Merry Christmas to you, Tom.
Merry Christmas. Happy holidays to everybody listening. Definitely.
Thank you. And some people will be listening to this well after Christmas, but Tom's room's all decorated nice. If you're seeing us on YouTube, can see, you know what I'm talking about. He's got the Christmas penguin there in the background. But let me talk to the listeners for here just a second. For all the business building warriors out there, I hope you enjoyed hanging out with Tom and I today. I had a great time. I learned a lot. I hope you did too. And just so you know, we're in your corner. We're here for you. We've got a great free Facebook group with about 70,000 people in it. Come join in. Great guys like Tom in there. Tens of thousands of Amazon sellers around the world encouraging each other, equipping each other for success. Come be a part of it. If you're not yet, I think you'll really enjoy it. You can scroll through hundreds of success testimonial posts as well, just to give yourself a boost that, yeah, this is possible. I can do this. So thanks for hanging out with us today. God bless all the business building warriors. We'll have another great episode like this again for you real soon. Talk to you then. Hey, before I go, one last reminder, Payoneer.com, a tremendous sponsor of this show. You can get 10% off your first fees by going to Payoneer.com/funding. Tell them you came from our program. They're going to take good care of you. Up to $750,000 for Amazon and Walmart sellers. Hey, if you're needing some funding with some good flexible payback terms with no credit check, you're going to love these guys. Go check them out.